This little 10-cent piece, well, it surprised everyone when last month a crisp, nearly flawless 1983 Roosevelt dime in mint state 67 sashayed across the auction block for a staggering $150. Yes, you heard that right. $150 for what most folks dismiss as pocket change. At first glance, nothing jumps out. But look again, that's the shocker you never saw coming. See the problem here? You wouldn't expect a coin from the early 80s, so common, to fetch a price that rivals half-century-old rarities. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can this be worth that kind of money? But here's the thing. I've seen plenty of these, but one collector in Florida noticed something odd, a faint doubling on Roosevelt's cheek. And that's where the story really begins. Here's exactly what to look for when you hold your own 1983 dime under a loupe. First, check the rim at the base of the torch on the reverse. If the borderline looks slightly thicker or shows a ghost image just inside, you might be staring at one of the most elusive double-die reverse varieties of 1983. And here's exactly what to look for on the obverse. Examine Roosevelt's ear. In genuine double dies, you'll catch a subtle second earlobe echo, barely perceptible unless you tilt the coin under bright light. At first glance, most folks miss this detail, but it makes all the difference. And then collectors notice something odd. On certain mint state examples from Philadelphia, the S mint mark pops up on dimes that were supposedly minted only in Denver that year. That little S, just a millimeter high, turns a routine issue into a conversation piece. But here's a red flag you don't want to ignore. Some unscrupulous sellers have taken genuine circulation strikes and hand-popped an S onto the die for photo ops. Don't fall for it. You'll want to check your collection for this by comparing the mint mark's edge under magnification. If it looks too crisp, too perfect, that's often a telltale sign of a machined add-on rather than an original struck die. Now, what's wild is the journey this coin took from pocket to podium. Picture this. An amateur picker in Ohio rummaging through a box of donated coins at a local shop. He's counting out change, humming along to the radio, when he spots a dime that gleams just a hair brighter. He pockets it, thinking it's a nicer date, only to discover days later that he's sitting on a key error. That's right. Found in his change drawer, no eBay searches, no library visits, pure, serendipitous discovery. You know that thrill, right? That moment when you think, did I just strike gold? Well, that's exactly the kind of surprise this 1983 dime delivers. Let's talk dollars and cents. In average circulated grades, think good to fine. You're looking at around 15 cents to 25 cents, maybe 30 cents if the luster still hangs on. It's pocket change, but move up to about uncirculated 50 to 55 Australian dollars, and values climb to $1 to $1.50. Most collectors don't bother with the AU pieces, but here's what you never hear about. Those mid-grade survivors are quietly gaining traction as people chase premium quality without breaking the bank. Now, for full mint state beauties, MS63 typically goes for $3 to $5. MS65, you're probably in the $10 to $15 range. But for specimens hitting MS67 or beyond, well, that's where fireworks start. Remember that $150 sale? That was a true MS67 DDO, that's double die obverse, variety that sent shockwaves through the community. And guess what the rarity really is? Only a handful have been graded that high with clear doubling. Most coins we see top out at MS65, so you're already in the top 1% if you snag an MS66. See why collectors circle that grade like vultures? Market trends? They've been holding steady for the past 2 years, with a slow but steady uptick in premium varieties and error examples. Plain Jane's circulated coins haven't budged, no surprises there. But those double dies and mint mark oddities? They're inching upward, up 10 or 20% in the last 12 months. Basically, the rarer the anomaly, the hotter the market. And here's a little-known fact that'll make you smile. The 1983 dime was the first Roosevelt dime to quietly switch to a new, slightly harder alloy blend intended to reduce machine wear. It's subtle, you can't taste it, but you can test its heft and strike quality. That hardness tweak sometimes left microscopic die cracks, giving rise to spontaneous spiderweb patterns on the reverse fields. Those crack-induced textures, when they appear, amplify value way beyond what you'd expect for a dime of this age. Now, I know what you're wondering. How do I make sure mine isn't a clever fake? Authentication warning: never trust photos alone. If a seller's only offering cell phone snapshots, insist on third-party grading or examine the coin in hand. Look for consistent die polish lines and genuine die crack networks. If it looks too smooth, too polished, you might be holding a counterfeit or an over-restored piece. And believe me, you don't want that kind of trouble. So, here's your takeaway. Next time you're sorting through a stack of Roosevelt dimes, pause on any 1983 issue. Give it a slow spin under a bright lamp. Tilt it. Peer at the mint mark. Check for doubling at the rim and in Roosevelt's profile. You'll want to check your collection for this, because hidden in plain sight, you could have the next auction blockbuster languishing in your tin can of change. That coin, well, it surprised everyone. But maybe it's time it surprises you too. And speaking of surprises, you won't believe what happened when a collector on eBay snagged a pristine 2016 D. Roosevelt dime, graded MS-68, at a small regional auction in October 2024, and then watched it hammer down for $85. That's right, $85 for a dime minted less than a decade ago. I mean, who expects a coin you might have slipped in your parking meter to generate that kind of buzz? But here's what you never hear about those modern gems. Here's exactly what to look for when you pull a 2016 dime into the light. Tip 1. Inspect the torch flames on the reverse. Genuine Denver Mint strikes from that year sometimes display a faint, vertical hairline just above the topmost flame, a die scratch that only shows under direct glare. If you catch that whisper-thin line, you might be holding what graders call the flame fracture variety, a subtle anomaly that propelled that MS-68 piece to its hefty price. Tip 2. Flip to the obverse and peer at Roosevelt's brow. On certain Philadelphia specimens, you'll spot a tiny, raised blister near the date, like an echo of metal that never settled. That little blister? It's the hallmark of a rare planchet lamination error, and it turns an otherwise run-of-the-mill coin into a collector's trophy. And then there's the mint mark mystery. Here's exactly what to look for on the 2016 P issues. Some show what experts call a repunched P. You'll see a doubling effect on the mint mark itself, almost as if someone stamped it twice with a slight shift. Trouble is, red flags pop up when that doubling is too crisp. In the wild, genuine repunches are soft-edged and blended into the surrounding metal. If the lines look laser-sharp, you might be staring at someone's tech-savvy forgery. Authentication tip: always compare the mint mark to a certified reference photo under at least 10 times magnification. You'll want to check your collection for this. What's wild is how these modern dimes find new life. Picture a young numismatist in California, deep in her sort-through-the-mail routine, sifting letters when she spots a dime that gleams slightly cooler. She blows on it, notices that uneven shimmer by the rim, and boom! Late that night, she's posting photos to a coin forum, asking, "Can this really be a flame fracture error?" By dawn, seasoned collectors had chimed in, calls were made, and she booked a grading appointment the next day. No dusty attic, no estate sale, just everyday mail that produced a mini windfall. Isn't that the kind of discovery story every coin hunter lives for? Let's talk value breakdown, because you need hard numbers to know what to expect. In circulated grades, 2016 dimes generally trade for face value, 10 cents. In fine to very fine, you might coax 20 to 30 cents if the eye appeals there. But in about uncirculated, 50 to 55 Australian dollars, values bump up to 50 cents to $1 as collectors hunt for premium details. Move into mint state, and things get interesting. MS-63 coins hover around $3 to $5. MS-65 brings $8 to $12. But MS-67 pieces, especially those with the flame fracture mark, can climb to $50 to $60. That October 2024 sale? It wasn't just the MS-68 grade. It was the combination of sharp fields, flawless luster, and that tiny hairline anomaly that pushed it to $85. Most 2016 dimes don't crack $20, so if you stumble on one of those special ones, you're in the top 0.5% of survivors. See the difference? Market trends for the 2016 issue have been on a gentle incline over the past year. Basic business strikes haven't moved much. Everyone knows they're common. But error varieties and premium MS grades have been inching up 15 to 20% since mid-2023, as more collectors chase modern anomalies rather than vintage classics. Simply put, Scarcity, even in a modern coin, drives demand. And here's a little-known fact you never hear. The 2016 dime was the first year the mint experimented with a new laser-etched date font, intended to deter counterfeits. That font change left microscopic ridges around the date numerals that only show under 20 times magnification. If you spot those ridges, congratulations. You have a genuine 2016 specialty strike with an anti-counterfeit signature. But I've got to warn you, don't get tripped up by over-restoration or field-cleaned coins. Authentication warning. If a coin's fields look unnaturally smooth, like someone buffed away all contact marks, it's probably been tooled. That kills the natural dye polish lines you need to verify authenticity. Look for the original radial luster patterns emanating from the torch center. They're the fingerprint of a bona fide strike. No radial flow, no true strike. Collector stories abound. One veteran in Texas checks rolls from his local bank every month and, back in January, cracked open a wrapped bundle of dimes. In that bundle, he found not just one, but two flame fracture pieces side by side. He thought it was a dealer's dream until he realized he was holding a matched pair from the same die state. He sold one for $45 and kept the other as his personal trophy. That's a practical collection tip. When you find one anomaly, double-check the roll. Siblings often travel together. Here's what you never hear about a 2016 dime, though. Despite its modern pedigree, true uncirculated survivors with untouched surfaces can develop spider webbing. Fine hairline die cracks radiating across the fields long before they reach collectors' hands. Those webs, when visible, can add up to a 30 to 40% premium at auction. And if you catch a web crossing Roosevelt's nose, you're talking unicorn status in the dime world. Now, you might be asking yourself, is it worth sorting through piles of pocket change for a coin barely 10 years old? If you're chasing error varieties or premium MS grades, absolutely. Think of it as sifting for diamonds in a mine you already own. You'll want to check your collection for this once you know the signs, because here's what you might never see otherwise: a dime that could pay for your grading fees in a single sale. So where does that leave us? You've got your 1983 Shocker and your 2016 Showstopper. Both coins teach the same lesson. Never underestimate pocket change and always know the subtle signs: die doubling, mint mark quirks, planchet oddities, or those new laser-etched fonts. Whether it's a decades-old dime sporting a double die profile or a modern one with a microscopic security feature, the coin world is full of hidden treasures. Well, here's the thing. Coin collecting isn't just about history or metal content. It's about those moments of discovery, that instant when you realize a routine date hides something extraordinary. And that's the real value awareness I want you to walk away with. Pay attention to the details, trust your eye and your loop, and maintain that sense of wonder every time you grab a handful of change. Because surprise, just a glance away, is what keeps this hobby alive and thrilling. So next time you hear that familiar jingle of dimes in your pocket, remember, in the right light, with the right tilt, you could be holding the next auction blockbuster. And really, isn't that the best part of coin collecting?